Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 24. Shajami tapasaivedam grasami tapasa punaha bibarmi tapasa vishvam viryam me dushcharam tapaha shajami tapasavedam Grisami tapasa punaha. Bibarmi tapasa vishvam. Viryam me dushcharam tapaha. Shrijami tapasa vedam. Grasami tapasa punaha. Bibarmi tapasa vishvam. Viryam me dushcharam tapaha. Shrijami tapasai vedam. Grasami tapasa punaha. Bibharmi tapasa vishvam. Viryam me dushcharam tapaha.
Shami tapasai vedam.
Shrijami tapasai vedam.
Swami tapasa punaha.
Jasami tapasa punaha.
Varmi tapasa vishvam.
Vivarmi tapasa vishvam.
Yuryam me dushcharam tapaha.
Viryam me dushcharam tapaha.
Srijami tapasai vedam.
Shrijami tapasai vedam.
Rasami tapasa punaha.
Tapasa punaha.
Bibarmi tapasa vishvam.
Vivarmi tapasa vishvam.
Viryam me dushcharam tapaha.
Viryam me dushcharam tapaha.
Shrijami tapasai vedam.
Shrijami tapasai vedam.
Rasami tapasa punaha. Bibharmi tapasa vishvam. Viryam me dushcharam tapaha.
Srijami tapasai vedam.
Shrijami tapasai vedam.
Grasami tapasa punaha.
Sami tapasa punaha.
Bibharmi tapasa vishvam.
Vivarmi tapasa vishvam.
Viryam me dushcharam tapaha.
Shrijami tapasai vedam.
Shrijami tapasai vedam.
Krisami tapasa punaha.
Rasami tapasa punaha.
Bibharmi tapasa vishvam.
Vivarmi tapasa vishvam.
Viryam me dushcharam tapaha.
Viryam me
Shrijami tapasai vedam.
Shrijami tapasai vedam.
Grasami tapasa punaha. Baparmi tapasa vishvam.
Vivarmi tapasa vishvam.
Viryam me dushcharam tapaha.
Viryam me dushcharam tapaha. Translation and purports by His Divine Grace Abhay Charan Arvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. I create. Oh wait, we have word by word first. Shrijami, I create. Tapasa, by the same energy of penance. Eva, certainly. Idam, this. Grasami tapasa, I do withdrawal also by the same energy. Punaha, again. Bipharmi, do maintain. Tapasa, by penance. Vishvam, the cosmos. Viryam, potency. Me, my. Dushcharam, severe. Tapaha, penance. Translation. I create this cosmos by such penance. I maintain it by the same energy, and I withdraw it all by the same energy. Therefore, the potential power is penance only. Purport. In executing penance, one must be determined to return home back to Godhead, and must decide to undergo all types of tribulations for that end. Even for material prosperity, name, and fame, one has to undergo severe types of penance. Otherwise, no one can become an important figure in this material world. Why, then, are there severe types of penances for the perfection of devotional service? An easygoing life and attainment of perfection and transcendental realization cannot go together. The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, he wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. The order is received from the Lord, either directly or through a bona fide spiritual master, and to execute that order, however painstaking, is the severe type of penance. One who follows the principle rigidly is sure to achieve success in attaining the Lord's mercy. Srijami tapasai vedam grasami tapasa punaha bibarmi tapasa vishvam viryam medushtaram tapaha. I create this cosmos by such penance. I maintain it by the same energy, and I withdraw it all by the same energy. Therefore, the potential power is penance only. Om Ganyatam Randasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militamina Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Maharaj, would you please enlighten us with your nectarian words?
So the ultimate goal of life is to return back to the spiritual world. Or if one is already in the spiritual world, engaged in full devotional service, then the goal is to continue. That's also the natural position of the living entity. He's eternally mukta, eternally liberated. He never comes to the material world. He stays in the spiritual world, that's his home, and he never tries to become the separate enjoyer. But the living entities who have come to the material world, falsely thinking that they're going to be able to enjoy themselves here by being the masters, are suffering, and they need to be properly directed. And the Vedas are meant for that purpose, the scriptures. And Krishna is coming. Lord comes in so many different forms. Yada yada dharma shiglani bhavati bharata abhutanam dharmasya dhammanam shridamya. He comes to reestablish the principles of religion. Whenever there's a decline in religious practice, he comes personally, and the Vedas are for that purpose. So it's a big operation has been established to rectify the living entities here in this material, the lost souls who are being smashed by the waves of Maya. He's trying to enjoy the waves, but the waves are smashing him. And he's trying to enjoy this material energy, but he's like a fish out of water. Fish out of water cannot get any pleasure because he's not in his natural habitat. Therefore, everyone has to make their goal to go back to home, back to Godhead, to get back in the environment that we can be happy in. And that's the spiritual world. And someone may say, well, there's a lot of austerity to get back, a lot of tapas. But we see there's also austerity in the mode of ignorance. Some people are, when I went to South Africa, I saw that they have other types of so-called religious practice or austerity. So, feedback. They walk on hot coals, burning hot coals, and they put spikes through them, different parts of their body, and or like in some, they stay out. Even in the Vedic times, they stay in the water, cold water up to the neck, to perform some austerity, so they can get. The idea is to get free from the idea of enjoying the senses. So they impose more suffering on themselves. Or they sit in the hot sun with fires built all around, just so they're not comfortable. Because there are some who try to purposely put themselves into suffering so they won't be attracted. But that doesn't really solve the problem, because still the attraction remains. It's not the best way. Best way is that one gets a higher taste. One actually gives up the lower taste when he gets something better. And getting something better is devotional service. How does one give up the desire for tasty foods? Well, someone might say, well, just don't eat. Or no. The way to give up the attraction for tasty foods is to offer the food to Krishna and then take that as remnants. How does it work? How can taking food, remnants from God, because that's spiritual. And when one becomes more advanced, he won't be just looking for the so-called taste, a material taste. He'll realize that the taste of eating Krishna Prasadam or honoring Krishna Prasadam is that he's getting the mercy of the Lord. It may taste good or not good according to material calculations, but he's not seeing that anymore. He realizes that the real taste is there in the mercy of the Lord and the reciprocation of the Lord.
Thank you, Maharaj, for those lovely comments. So we're hearing in this verse today more about penance. Yesterday we also heard about penance and how Lord Krishna ordered Brahma to undergo penance. And we're seeing here in this verse that the potential power is penance only. So what is this penance? I looked up the definition in the dictionary, and it says penance is the voluntary self-punishment inflicted as an outward expression of repentance of having done wrong. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, we slowly start to understand all the things we've done wrong in this life, and what to speak of all the other past lives that we've had. So slowly we begin to understand this, all the things we've done wrong. It actually increases more and more over time, this feeling of, I've wasted my life doing so many rascal things. And that feeling increases. It doesn't just go away. But we also begin to dive deeper and deeper into the nectar of Krishna consciousness as we start to understand more about Krishna himself and the power and the magic of the devotees and their mystical behavior that isn't seen in other people on the planet besides the devotees. So it's not that we say, I've done something wrong. and you have a feeling of like depression or dread or low self-esteem or so on. No, it's actually a force. This power is a force to motivate us to do even more service for the Lord. So it's kind of like a tug and pull. You know, we get this bliss from Krishna consciousness, but we also understand how far we have to go to really purify ourselves from all the nasty things that we've participated in life. So this penance gives us the power to say, it's basically gives us the power to say no, like no to certain things. We're always faced with choices in our day-to-day life, do this or do that. And so how do we understand what choice to make? And we get that understanding from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And Prabhupada specifically points out in the purport that the orders received from the Lord, either directly or through the bona fide spiritual master, and to execute that order, however painstaking, is the severe type of penance. So there's a nice story in the Mahabharata of a sage, Ayodhya. He had 3 disciples, Upamanya, Aruni, and Veda. One day, they were surrounding their spiritual master, and the spiritual master, Ayodhya, noticed that there was a breach in a dike nearby, and so he called for his disciple Aruni. He was like, Aruni, can you please go see what's up with the dike and fix it? And the dike, basically holds water back, so there was a breach in that, and too much water was coming through and causing issues, of course. So Aruni went to the dike, and he investigated the situation. And he was saying, okay, what's wrong with this? What's going on? How can I fix this? Basically, he was searching around for something to fix it, but the breach was a little too large for the repair he was going to make. So he decided he told himself, so be it. I will do it. And so, like Maharaj was talking about a little bit ago about some sages going in to up to their neck in cold water, and that being a type of penance, this devotee decided to follow the order of the spiritual master and submerge himself in the water against the dike, preventing the water from leaking out. So he did that. He put his body in the way up to the neck, and he was stopping the water. Day turned into night, and he stayed there all night. And the next day, Ayodhya Domya was asking his 2 other disciples, where has Aruni gone? Why hasn't he returned? The dam should have been fixed. The dike should have been fixed by now. And so they decided, okay, he's not back, let's just go there. And so Ayodhya Domya and Veda and Upamanya, they went to this dike, and the spiritual master Ayodhya Domya called out, Aruni, where are you? Where are you? Please come here. Where are you? So immediately Aruni got out of the water, and he was shivering. He was so cold. And he came right to his spiritual master, and he said, yes, what can I do for you? So the Ayodhya Dhamma said, because you're always obeying, seeing that his disciple had surrendered so nicely to the service that he had given him, he said these words, because you are always obeying my instructions, you will achieve great fortune in life. You shall understand all the Vedas and all the Dhamma-shastras, the great books of knowledge. So this penance that we undergo in life is actually, in Krishna consciousness, is trying to follow the orders of the spiritual master. So of course we make vows, make vows to follow the 4 regulative principles, and to chant our, at least 16 rounds a day, That's the vows we make, but there's also other instructions that the spiritual master gives to us in a more subtle form. And so we might not understand those at the beginning of taking Diksha, but over time we can understand the mood and the way in which our spiritual master wants us to execute devotional service. Which, we look at the example of the Acharya, founder Acharya of Krishna of ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and how he received the order from his spiritual master to preach in the English language. And we're also hearing in the morning from Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita how he is executing that order to preach by distributing his Back to God magazine in spite of so many perceived setbacks, so many obstacles to service, to a service from all of the drought and war and pestilence and those things going on, heat, cold, disturbances from others, and so on. He persevered through those obstacles to follow the order of his spiritual master. And of course, it can be seen as a preparation for him to come to the U.S. by himself. So he was doing all these great penances by following the order of his spiritual master, and ultimately he attained the goal in which he wanted to do, which was travel to America and spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world, and to always be printing books and distributing those books to others to teach them about Krishna consciousness. Is there any comments or questions about this text, or any thoughts to expand the conversation? Go ahead. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing that story to further elaborate on understanding the proper penance that we should be performing. And it's for the spiritual master and for Krishna. I like how Maharaj was talking about how he visited South Africa and how he saw others from other, I guess, maybe tribes or cultures practicing penance, but according to like simply just being free from the bodily conception of life. But it's so nice that we have access to knowledge that it shows us how to perform penance that will bring us to the highest goal, which is to remember Krishna and to remember our real, like our real selves, our real position of, for one, we're not our bodies, but also that there's a higher taste that we could experience through this penance, of, there's a, waking up early and chanting our rounds in the Brahma Muhurta time, and just being aware of all these, like you were kind of saying, like there's like these subtle things. I don't practice all of it, but it's nice to try and to hear about.
These penances aren't concocted, right? They're not something that we come up with ourselves, like you were saying, walking on coals or
Putting spikes in
putting spikes in your cheeks, or so many different things people manufacture to y- basically try to understand that, I'm not my body. Maybe not directly with that philosophy in mind, but they do these things. But we understand from the scripture that, our penance is, mad mana bhava mad bhakto majijimam namaskuru mami vaishaishi yuktaivam atmanam matparatyanaha. Worshiping Krishna, offering your obeisances to Krishna, serving him, and eventually Atma Nivedanam, offering your whole life to him with no reservations, that ultimate form of surrender. That's our penance, and it's joyfully performed too. It's not all doom and gloom. There's joy. Do you have something more? Yeah.
I had a question. So this is just from the verse. So Krishna says that he creates and he maintains and he annihilates by the same potency, which is penance. But I have a hard time thinking or understanding that Krishna has to, like, how does he have penance? Do you understand what I'm asking? Like, Krishna doesn't have he doesn't perform bad deeds, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, why would he need to do any penance? Why would he? Because he doesn't ever do anything wrong, so why would he need to do penance for something he never did? Yeah, I would just be speculating if I were trying to answer that question. So I don't know if anybody else in the room understands that. Yes, Prabhu?
Does it to set an example, like Lord Ram sets an example as the perfect king, so Krishna sets an example. As Lord Chaitanya also, every incarnation he sets an example which the people can follow, for the people to follow.
Very nice. He comes to, like Maharaj is saying, yada yada dharma sha. Dharma samstapanartaya. He comes to reset the principles of dharma, and he says in the Bhagavad Gita that if I don't do any work, then you also won't do any work. So I must do work. But of course, Krishna is saying, I'm not going to suffer any of the reactions of the work. And then he says, yad yad acharati shreshtas, that whatever action a great man performs, come and follow in his footsteps, and whatever example he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So we just try to see Krishna as the example for everything, and like you mentioned, Lord Ramachandra gives us an excellent example of how to live on earth and how to respect all living entities, and how to, if we have to fight, then we only fight on religious principles, for maintaining religious principles. The Lord is more clever than The Lord is more clever than any living entity. Therefore, he wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. So the Lord can see past all of our calculating plans that we might have, even in devotional service or mixed to devotional service, to see how committed we are to wanting to go back home, back to Godhead. And Prabhupada's saying it's not easy. It's not easy to go back home, back to Godhead. But we can rest assured that we'll get that opportunity if we simply try to follow the order of the spiritual master. Is there any other comments or questions, reflections? Well, let's keep the penance going by taking nice, sumptuous prasadam, and we'll go throughout our day serving the Lord, and whatever way we've been called to do by our spiritual master. Thank you so much for tuning in to Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpa Trurascha Kripasindubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.